So I was literally just about to shoot my intro, but this kind of does the job for me. Here we have a plaque on the wall here of what I think is either a bank or a hotel, and it's the site of St Mildred's Church, demolished in 1872. Sorry. And that's what's kind of interesting here is the church was demolished in 1872. It didn't burn down, it wasn't bombed in the Blitz. It was demolished, deliberately removed. We're on Poultry. That's where St Mildred's once stood, on Poultry. That's a good name. I will put up on the screen why it's called Poultry. I've put it in a previous video and I can't remember what it is. And look, we're in the Ward of Walbrook, and actually St Mildred's, the Ned, which is now a fancy hotel, it was, I think, a bank originally. It's very nice. A friend of mine stayed there who lives in London and spent the weekend there. Apparently, the restaurants in the Ned are really nice. Bit swanky, but really nice. So, I like it when the video starts itself, kind of thing. I should probably straighten up my cap, shouldn't I, like that? So yes, that's what we're doing today. We're going to walk around some of the lost churches of the City of London. We're going to go looking for the lost churches of the City of London. I've got the map that I've been using since I started this series. When did I start the series? I feel like it was in 2020, or was it in 2021? Sorry, as we go around, look, this piece to camera at the opening will be interrupted by fascinating things. Look, Grocers Hall Court here. I don't think the Grocers Hall is here anymore, but that's the thing with the City of London, is that it's the traces of the former city, the ghosts of London past are very present with us here in the city. Grocers Hall Court, this is part of the old medieval street pan. This would have been the Grocers Hall, the Grocers Company, I guess, and one of the city guilds, the grocers. Each of the guilds have their own guild hall. Many of them still exist. I'm sure the grocers must have one somewhere, and this would have been the core of the hall. Medieval London is alive and well, and that's one of the things that you get from this series of walking between the city churches. And I think we're going to get one of my favourite things in the city just up here. But we didn't get one of my favourite things in the city. I thought these bollards marked an alleyway that would cut through to the location we're going to, but they don't. Look, they probably once did. They wouldn't be there for no reason. So for those of you tuning in maybe for the first time, or haven't watched any of my previous City of London churches videos, of which I think now there are about 6 or 7 now at least, I've been walking around the existing churches of the City of London. There were once 108 of them before the Great Fire of London, 109 if you include St Paul's. And I've put the figures up on the screen and what happened to them, but various fates befell the City of London churches. First there was the Great Fire of London, which destroyed a number of them, but then famously many of them were rebuilt by Sir Christopher Wren. Many of the surviving churches today are Wren churches. And then there was this kind of curious thing in the 1870s and 1880s when they started to reorganise the wards of the City of London, and there was an Act of Parliament, and as a result of that Act of Parliament they started demolishing some of the old city churches. Like poor old St Margaret's back there was one, and I think the next one we're going to, or the first one, was another. And then of course we had the Blitz, which destroyed a number of the churches of the City of London. But what we're looking for today, actually the traces left by churches that either exist purely as a tower or as a churchyard. And as a consequence, a lot of the churches that were demolished or destroyed did leave behind their traces. They left behind these little churchyards, which today exist as like little gardens. We visited a couple of them on the way. And so I've got the map markers for the towers. But what I don't have is anything marked like St Margaret's back there. We'll just have to see what we find as we go. It's going to be a really beautiful walk. And I know some of the regular viewers are going, hang on, John, you look a bit different. Yes, I did shave my beard off completely, but it's coming back. It's coming back. The beard's coming back. So we're turning into Old Jewry, which I imagine, I'll look it up again, put it on the screen, must be related to one of the sites of the medieval Jewish community. I'm guessing that, based on the name. But here we have the site of St Mary Cole Church, destroyed in the Great Fire of 1666. So we've bagged 2 churches already. And the other site we're looking for is down here. It's St Olave Jewry. And this rather nondescript looking building is a nice historical reference here. It's Becket House, because this is where Sir Thomas Becket was born and lived in his early years, not far from here, in a Norman French-speaking household. The location exactly is covered in a previous video. I'll link to all those videos below. But it's an interesting vision of medieval London when this area was, the predominant language here was Norman French. Now we will encounter blue plaques along the way. Some of them I'll filter out, like there's one behind me actually for a fellow called Waterhouse, who was a significant accountant. I guess he founded Price Waterhouse, didn't he? But this one here we'll include because it's a location associated with Benjamin Disraeli, twice Prime Minister during the reign of Queen Victoria. Very significant figure in British politics, Benjamin Disraeli, and he worked in this building in the 1820s. And of course I'm a bit biased because he's a Wickham boy, isn't he? Grew up near High Wycombe and lived in Hewenden Manor. So I think our tower, our ghost of a former church and its graveyard is down here. St Olave's Court. I think the churchyard still exists. So unfortunately I can't gain access to the churchyard unless there's another entrance somewhere else. Because this is this big stone gate, because the tower of St Olave's old Jewry is now an office building. And has been for some time. It was built by Sir Christopher Wren in the 1670s, and then the main body of the church was demolished in 1888, but the tower remains. Apparently it has 4 obelisks on each corner of the tower. And what's interesting is once upon a time it was one of the few kind of painted churches that was left in the City of London. It had 3 kind of significant paintings on its walls, so it would have been quite a sight. It's such a shame that it was demolished with all those paintings on the walls there. This is Ironmonger Lane now. I know I always go on about it, but these little lanes and these alleyways really are the treasures of the City of London. So here we have the plaque for the Great Synagogue, which stood near this site until 1272. That explains obviously the name of the street, Old Jewry. Of course the Great Synagogue now is Bevis Marks Synagogue, which I think is under threat from development, astonishingly. I hope they're successful in their campaign to get that development stopped. And Bevis Marks Synagogue will feature in a future video. And it's really interesting because it's the only non-Christian religious building in the City of London, which is interesting, isn't it? Although there are a few around the fringes that are non-Christian, but that is still the only non-Christian building. And I was reading about the history of Bevis Marks recently. It's got a fascinating story. And of course, it's fascinatingly tied up with the resettlement of Jews in London under Oliver Cromwell, a man not particularly noted for his religious tolerance, but there you go. History's interesting, often a little bit messy and contradictory in many places. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to Nigel, who I met back there in the street, saw me filming, said, "Oh, hello, I love your videos." We had a lovely, lovely chat. Nigel's a man with a great passion for London and a great knowledge as well. So now to our next lost church, our next, hopefully, a tower that we can see, that we can get close to. So we got drawn into Pancras Lane. I saw a list of saints today, or the origins of the names of the churches, and I think St Pancras was a child martyr. And at the end of Pancras Lane we have this plaque here, which is the site of St Benet Sherehog, the site of St Benet Sherehog Church, destroyed in the Great Fire of 1666. I think St Benet is in Cease Lane, S-I-S-E Lane, which is another interesting name as well. It does throw up so much, the City of London, doesn't it? If you're wondering what this big blue book I'm carrying around is, it's The Old Churches of London by Gerald Cobb, published in 1941. It's a really good source. Obviously, I've still got my John Betjeman in my bag, and I'm using the Betjeman map. This is an interesting view of one of my favourite churches on this series of walks, St Stephen Walbrook. But we'll pass up the side of that glorious church. We won't go down Walbrook with its Mithraeum and its river running beneath the street. We'll carry on to our next site. The buried river Walbrook is running beneath our feet here, beneath the ground. And I'll link below to a video where I walk the route of the Walbrook. That's a cracking walk. And now we'll walk up St Stephen's Row. I'm not sure I've walked up here before. And here's another gem here, Mansion House Place. It runs behind the Mansion House itself. Home to the Lord Mayor of London, of course. And into St Swithin's Lane. And there is London Stone, covered in a previous video, of course. Place, a stone of great myth and story, and a great lump of rock that we still venerate. Look at it there. My favourite bit of London stone mythology is the relationship that they may or may not have had with the final resting place of Catherine Gwyndea. I know I'm mispronouncing it, apologies to my Welsh viewers, who died or was murdered in London, the daughter of the Welsh hero Owen Gwyndea. Again, I know I've mispronounced it, but there's the little churchyard up there, St Swithin's, and there is London Stone just there, and it's said that that is significant in some way, that maybe the London Stone was the remnant of an ancient stone circle. So we explore another little feature of the old street plan of London here, Bush Lane. Again, redolent of some sort of great story, don't you think? Bush Lane can't just because there was a bush down here, surely. Suffolk Lane, which has a junction with Gopher Lane. I think that's G-O-P-H-I-R, Gopher Lane meeting Suffolk Lane. Suffolk Lane would have headed down to the banks of the Thames once upon a time. This lovely little garden here marks the site of St Laurence Pountney Church. Is that how you pronounce it? I want to say Pountney, but that's probably wrong, isn't it? My mangled Bucks pronunciation. It's probably Pountney, isn't it? St Laurence Pountney Church, and also Corpus Christi College, both destroyed in the Great Fire of London of 1666. And this is lovely little alleyway here. It's St Lawrence Pountney Hill. Pountney. Someone's going to take great joy in correcting me in the comments. That's what they're there for. I mean, it should be Pountney, because if it had a D, there'd be pound, so Pountney. Do other languages have so much kind of deliberation over the pronunciation of words, the correct pronunciation? I'm not sure they do. I think it's partly because sometimes when we see a word in English and we go, that sounds a bit foreign, I don't know how to pronounce that, it's because it kind of is foreign. English is kind of, well, one version of English anyway is that it's cobbled together from various other languages. Germanic languages, various Germanic languages, then you have a bit of Norman French chucked in. They were trying to speak Latin, I think, at one point as well, and then whatever languages were spoken before that, whatever that is. Some people reckon actually it just would have been English, and we just added some bits of Germanic languages and some bits of French into this that we're speaking. Interesting idea. People with a real strong attachment to the idea of the Celtic fringe tend to dispute that. And yeah, but you know, who knows? I mean, I think people that study languages, phonologists, say they do know. Anyway, I'm waffling now because I can't find this tower and I'm a bit hungry. I think we have our tower down here. So where there's that massive crowd of people, that is Allhallows Lane. So I'm hoping the tower is down there. There is a huge queue of people going into this place. I think it's called Nordic Spirit. People making announcements over loudhailers. I have no idea. But the lane is not blocked. I can go down the lane. Here we are, an old old lane heading to the Thames. That's the Thames at the end of this street. Well, we've come out onto the Thames path, the banks of the Thames. You can see the Shard over there. No sign of the tower. No sign of the tower of Allhallows. I hope it wasn't demolished. That would be disgraceful. Hanseatic Walk. That's another name kind of loaded with great history and great stories. I only recently found out about the Hanseatic League. I think that's what it was called, wasn't it? So we're looking for the tower that belonged to Allhallows the Great. Allhallows the Great. We've seen one Allhallows, Allhallows Staining. We've already visited Allhallows Staining. But the tower that remains of Allhallows the Great, I'm not giving up on it, but I fear, seeing as where it's located on the map, on this side of the street is just all new buildings on this side. So I have a horrible feeling it's obliterated since Betjeman wrote his book. But it was notable for having a particularly large cloister in the book here. Let me turn this so I can maybe get a better exposure. Will it expose me better that way? Maybe, maybe not. Well, here's what it says about Allhallows the Great, of which Stowe says, Sir John Stowe, the great London antiquarian, he says, this is a fair church with a large cloister on the south side thereof, about their churchyard, but foully defaced and ruinated. Well, that's unfortunate that it was ruinated. There's also actually a reference on the same page to St Laurence, Pountney. We'll call it Pountney for now until someone corrects me in the comments. And the churchyard there, that Flemish weavers were ordered they should meet there in the churchyard, and that the weavers of Brabant and in that of St Mary, Somerset, for the hiring of serving men. I don't know. So I guess it means that that churchyard was assigned to Flemish weavers as a place where they could hire workers there. It's interesting, all these things in the Hanseatic League. Sorry, I just left that hanging, didn't I? I'll put the proper description up here of what the Hanseatic League was. But I came across that when I went to King's Lynn last summer to do a talk. A fantastic day out. I really regret not making a video, actually. Maybe I'll have to go back and do a talk and walk around King's Lynn. But King's Lynn was an incredibly prosperous medieval port because it was one of the Hanseatic ports. And this was a collaboration of medieval trading ports that were spread across Europe, mostly Northern Europe, Germany. I think there was some even in Russia. I think there was maybe one in Italy. And these towns had the rights to trade with each other and I think maybe raise their own taxes. I'm not sure. It's something like that. I'll put up a little box here with a shortened description of what the Hanseatic League was. It's like I guess it was like an early free trade kind of zone, or an early free trade kind of what do you call it? Collaboration, I suppose. Interesting, recorded here in the Hanseatic Walk. I guess I don't think London was one of the Hanseatic ports, but maybe I'm wrong. Got the remains of an old wharf down there beneath Cannon Street Bridge. Also, the Walbrook makes its confluence with the Thames somewhere under that bridge as well. Let's go and find this tower. And that could be it because I'm hungry. I need to have dinner. And we've seen a lot of churches today, right? So yes, disappointingly, Allhallows Tower was demolished in 1964. After Betjeman wrote his guide. It was, and actually the building that it was demolished to make way for itself was demolished. So I think this may be the building here, or the back of that building. So we can't end here. We're going to go and find a different tower. So I'm hoping up here, which is Arthur Street, we'll find the tower of St Martin Orgar. But I don't know, it's not looking good, is it? This is looking north along Martin Lane, and luckily Betjeman doesn't say a lot about this tower, but he mentions that it has a clock protruding from it. And there you can see the clock, can't you? But you know what, actually, before we do that, I've seen this is a little peculiarity. Maybe someone can clear this up for me once and for all in the comments. Look, here. I used to pass this in the evening. What is it? I put it on my blog probably 16, 17, 18 years ago, and I've never found a satisfactory answer. I thought it's something to do with postmen, maybe leaving their mail here, but I'm not sure. If you know, it's off Martin Lane. Please tell me in the comments. I'm sure someone will know. Also, because it's been left, there must be a reason. So we finally have some bricks and mortar to look at here. Interesting, intriguing, this is what remains of St Martin Orgar. Another weird word, isn't it? Another weird word, and it's said possibly to derive from a Dane called Ordigarus, who donated the church to the prebends of St Paul's. So I'm not sure what the timeline on that would be, but the church was destroyed in the Great Fire of 1666. It had been a medieval church, and then it was partly restored and used by French Protestants right until it was finally demolished in 1820. And there was a tower still remaining, but I think this one here was built around that time, around 1851, and the clock added to it. But it marks another part of the ancient street plan of the City of London. Another of its ghosts and part of its churchyard still remains here. Well, this is a fine ending to today's walk, looking for the ghosts of old London, the ghosts of the old churches, walking through, perambulating the medieval street plan. And in fact, some of these lanes would date back to the Roman street plan of London. It's another enlightening and intriguing and invigorating walk. I love these City of London walks. And I think today, funnily enough, even though this is the only physical remains that we visited, we've probably been to the sites of more churches today than on any other of my City of London churches walks. So thank you once again for joining me on another part of this series that I'm determined to string out for as long as possible. As I always like to say, I look forward to seeing the next walk, wherever that may be. And hopefully quite soon I'm going to finally have that book for you. I'm not going to say any more until then.